Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to another Adara Foundation Webinar Series. It's a great pleasure to have you with us this afternoon. I'm going to talk a little bit about Adara Foundation, why we're doing these series, and then we'll go straight into what I think is going to be one of the most important conversations that we need to have around how SMEs can thrive and become center stage in fueling getting us out of this economic crisis, or helping get us out of this economic crisis that we're in. So Adara Foundation was founded by myself in 2016, and we set it up just because we wanted to contribute to the initiative that is a necessity at our time to catalyze the transformation of development by supporting women in particular and by supporting youth, so that they play a more central role in the socioeconomic development of Nigeria and Africa and the broader global economy. And since we've done that, our core pillars really pivot around women in particular. And we focused on women's empowerment through skills training, financial inclusion training and awareness, and we also health awareness, because a healthy woman, healthy youth, a healthy population is a powerful population. And we've also gone into entrepreneurship training and other kinds of capacity building that does help build the muscle that we need to develop our economy. As we've come into the financial crisis and are living through it and coming out of it, what we decided to do was really just refocus our energies more directly in a much more strategic way on doing what we can to support SMEs, because as we all know today, there's over 90 million SMEs in Africa. 41 million of them are actually in Nigeria. Over 20 million of them are in Lagos alone. Collectively in Nigeria and also in the continent, they account for 50% of our output and employ a significant amount of people. So this is a very important sector of our economy that, to my mind, has been sidelined from pretty much any important conversation that's out there. So whether it's finance, whether it's policy, whether it's the tools that they need and any kind of support to develop this very important sector. So at Adara Foundation, we want to do something about that. In everything we do, we elevate perspective and we elevate action, and that's what we want to do today. We have a very, very exciting panel ahead. In our last series, we talked about digital SME lenders and why that's important. We all know one of the biggest challenges for SMEs today is the fact that they're very poorly funded. And truly, most people don't even begin to understand what it takes to support SMEs in the way that they really deserve to be supported. So with that, what we did was start a journey of uncovering some pretty amazing digital SME lenders that actually exist and are operating in our economy and are wanting to support SMEs. So last week we actually featured Ruby's digital bank, Carbon and Vint. We will be sharing with participants in this series the list of about 20 such organizations that are dedicating themselves in a very future-forward way to help SMEs. Today, we're going to turn the spotlight on another particularly important topic. How on earth do we grow this sector? How do we support this sector if we don't have the right focus and understanding and application of technology and digital marketing? So that's where we're coming from today. One of the things that just in terms of preparing for this discussion, there were some do's and don'ts I was given. One of them was to say, don't talk about data. So I'm going to talk about data. I'm going to talk about data because it's very important. Today, globally, we're using 1% of the data that's being generated. I'm sure that number is less in Nigeria. If we doubled it, if we went to 24% even, the global GDP would double. Imagine what that would do for us right now. And if I even take digital marketing, right now, it takes us 8 minutes to realize we've lost our phone. It takes us 18 minutes for those of us who have children to realize we've lost our children. Digital tools are becoming more important and more prevalent in our lives. let me bring this back home a little bit. So anyone who knows the BAP, the Bolanley Austin Peters production group, knows that they produce plays. One of my favorites is Moremi. Now, they had Moremi, which they did in a small theater. It's one of the few we actually have in Nigeria, but it is still very small. And in total, they probably reached about 5,000, and I'm going to ignore repeat customers for 1 minute. 5,000 people who would have come in there. A lot of them would have gotten free tickets. During this lockdown, they decided to go digital on it. And that airing of Moremi had 44,000 computers that logged in. Let's just imagine that there were 2 eyeballs per computer. I'll stay at the 44,000. Whilst that airing was showing, Netflix and YouTube were contacting BAP Productions to speak to them about how they can work with them rather, not us, I'm not part of it, work with them on projecting this amazing production far and wide. It wasn't just about how now BAP Production has a new avenue of revenue, but importantly, they have a massively expanded window to project the culture that we have and that we're also very proud of. So I'm going to, at this stage, move into the conversation about why we must understand and embrace technology, and why, if we're not thinking about how to go digital, if we're not thinking about how to go digital with our marketing and production, I struggle to understand how we're going to succeed. It's my view, I'm sticking to it, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So it's with great pleasure that I'm going to introduce you experts who are very, very accomplished in their fields. I'm going to introduce them by name, and I'd like them to speak about who they are, why they do what they do, and why it's important to them. And the first of the participants is Nkemdilim Uwaje. She is the CEO and founder of Futuresoft. She's also, I'm proud to say, one of the many things that she's done is she's a board member of Standard Bank. And she also speaks extensively globally. Her primary focus today is to take us on a journey of why digital marketing is important and why we all need to engage on it. And she's going to give us a thoroughly engaging conversation on that and why. Adia Sowho is another phenomenal expert that we're lucky to have as Nigerians. Her history and reputation go far and wide. She was recently VP of Business Growth and the MD of the Migo Nigeria business. But her actual understanding of digital businesses, how they work, why they're important, and how they matter for small businesses and how small businesses can engage in them is quite phenomenal. We're going to hear about her. Last but not least is Iyinoluwa Aboyeji, who, as we all know, for those of us who do know him and those of us who don't, is one of the founders of Flutterwave and Adara. He's currently now the founder and working with Future Africa. All these are very fine examples of how technology can be used to take the talent that we have and transform our economies in ways that are A, irreversible and absolutely incremental. So I'm going to start off with Nkem to give us a quick introduction, and then move on to Adia, and then E, and then we'll go straight into the conversation.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. I've prepared a small presentation just to help us along the way. So I'm going to talk about digital marketing and basically focus on what exactly digital marketing is, if this thing could load. All right, perfect. So I'll jump right in. So like Yvonne said, in this day and age, whatever you do, no matter how big your business is, a big part of your marketing strategy has to simply be digital. And not just your marketing strategy, but a big part of your entire business operations basically has to be digital and focus on digital. So what exactly is digital marketing? So digital marketing is not just social media. A lot of people sort of feel like, oh yeah, I'm doing digital marketing simply because I have an Instagram page or I have a Facebook page or a website, but that isn't digital marketing. Digital marketing really is the combination of marketing tactics deployed via digital channels, like your website, your email marketing, social media marketing, search engine marketing, search engine optimization, your digital PR, blogs and content marketing, and the list goes on, right? So there's so many aspects and facets of digital marketing that businesses can deploy. Now, a lot of the time, I get asked, okay, why should I care and why should I do this? And I think for those who haven't really woken up from the COVID pandemic, I will try and, sort of explain why digital marketing is important, but I'm sure everybody knows that it is important. But here are a couple of reasons why. Digital marketing levels the playing field. So unlike TV and radio, where it's very hard for small and medium-sized businesses to participate, in digital marketing, everyone can participate, right? It's cost effective. So digital marketing produces great return on investment, and SMEs can participate at no or low cost, which is really, really great. It can also be highly targeted. So it allows you to reach potential customers where they actually spend their time and money. And I think that this is something that is really great, because a lot of the time, you do traditional marketing and it's almost like winking in the dark, because you simply have no idea what you're actually getting out of it. Digital marketing can also be highly personalized. So you can tailor it to the different audience segments that you're targeting. You can tailor it to even on an individual basis, which is really great, because that makes customers feel like you know them and they are really close to your brand, and that creates sort of emotions, and those emotions create brand loyalty again. Digital marketing also reduces friction, so it can enhance and shape your customer experience, which is really, really great. And I think in this day and age, customer experience is such an important thing, and it's something that really is, I think the core of what keeps brands alive is the customer experience. It also allows you to track performance. So key performance metrics can be tracked with advanced analytics tools. There's lots and lots of data around digital marketing that allows you to make better decisions. So how do you get started? My advice would be do an audit of your channels first, then create a strategy that is aligned with your business goals. So a lot of people sort of look at digital marketing as something that is sort of completely out of the box and completely, disconnected from their business. But the truth is that your business goals and your digital marketing goals must be aligned in order for you to actually be successful. Then you need to figure out, how do you target properly, right? Where are these people that I'm trying to target? Who are they? How old are they? And really dive into there. And then how do you acquire them as your users or as followers or whatever the case may be? And then how do you engage with them and respond to them? I think that's really, really key. A lot of, brands fail. They set up digital marketing channels. And I'll give an example. I was trying to buy some nail polish online, and I went on Instagram, I found this store, and I said, hi, I want to buy this. 3 days, no answer. Then they finally responded, said, yes, we have it. I said, okay, can I see the colors? Can I see what you have? 3 days, again, no answer. By that time, I had engaged someone else and I had bought it. It was in my house, my nails were painted. And then they finally responded and they were like, oh, don't you want to come to our store? And I said, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't want to come to your store. I just want nail polish, but I've already bought it because you guys are too slow in responding. And then they were like, oh, we're so sorry, right? So response time, the tone, how you respond, the information that you relay, ensuring that customers don't have to ask 5 million questions before they get the right information is really, really important. Tracking is also really important. Tracking is also really important because you basically can ensure that the goals that you set, that you actually achieve them by simply tracking as you go along and tracking the success of what you're implementing. Now, I have 8 quick tips for getting digital marketing right. The first one is to optimize all your digital channels. Each touch point is important and consistency is key. Number 2, be strategic. Don't just post or build and create. Have a strategy that drives your decisions. And as I mentioned, that strategy should be aligned with your business goals. Target. Know your audience and customer and use channels that are native to them. Don't spread yourself thin, which means don't do too many channels, right? So there are people who are like, yes, I want social media, I want Instagram, I want Facebook, I want LinkedIn, I want Pinterest, I want Twitter. What's the point? Where are your customers? Are they on all of these channels? And what are they doing on all of these channels, right? Do you need the same type of engagement on each channel? Or is there one channel where the majority of them are and you can actually just focus on that channel? So be very, very strategic and target properly. Customize, match your content to every stage of your customer's journey. Create content that adds value, engages, educates, drives conversation and retention, right? So your customer journey has different stages and you have to create content that basically addresses each of those stages in order to convert the customer in the end, and also in order to retain them and make them a brand ambassador. Think mobile. Build your digital marketing footprint, assuming that your customers are all on mobile. Make your website responsive, engage via social commerce, explore mobile apps. There's so many things that you can create, amazing experiences using mobile. And I think that it's really, we're in a mobile first market, so we really have to sort of look at strategies and ways to engage our customers on the devices that they're actually using. Think first. People search every day. And this is, I think, one of the strategies that in this part of the world is a lot of the time overlooked. And that's content marketing, right? Create a blog on your website to drive more traffic. You need things that are constantly changing on your website in order to get traction. Make sure that you have, something that actually pulls them, and that could be your content. And you don't need to write all of it, right? You can engage your employees, your team members to actually write some of that content and ensure that you have engaging content on your pages. And ensure that you also incorporate search engine optimization into your overall strategy. The second to last one is be visible. So Google My Business is a great tool that allows you to be found very quickly and gives you great visibility. Then the last one is think data. So Yvonne mentioned that she was told not to talk about data. I'm going to talk about data as well. I love data, and the truth is that all of the secrets of success are in your data. So the more data you have, the better you can actually function, and the better decisions you can actually make. So make sure that you think data at all times. The future of digital marketing, in my mind, is marketing automation, where the majority of your marketing processes are automated. Hyper-personalization, where every single touch point of the customer journey is customized to who that customer is, what the customer likes, and their preferences. Chatbots and sort of in messenger marketing is definitely one of the things that is really, really great. And we've seen some of the banks have sort of gone down that lane, and a couple of other smaller innovative tech companies as well. Social commerce is on the rise. I think in a couple of years, e-commerce websites will be a thing of the past. We've seen brands like Facebook launch Facebook shops just recently. Instagram is really doing a lot for small businesses and promoting them as well. You can shop with Instagram tags, which at the moment are still linked to your website, but I think in the near future, this will also change, where you can complete the transaction fully without leaving the actual app. Digital marketing is also gaining a growing role in digital transformation. So it's pretty much becoming an integral part of technology and processes that you have within your organization. And it's creating a lot of data, a lot of learning for not just your chief marketing officer, but for everyone across the organization. And that's pretty much it from me. And I'm sure I'll be able to share lots more as we go along. Thank you.
Nkem, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Just one thing that I before I go on to Adia is that I wanted to mention. We want to make this session as interactive as possible. The panelists want to share their knowledge with you. They want to talk to you. So please bring the questions in. We'll actually weave them into the conversation, and we'll dedicate time for a special Q&A as well. So without further ado, Adia, Sowho, it's a pleasure to have you introduce yourself and why you think this is important.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I think for me, given my history with growing businesses, I've come to understand the importance of data. I guess that's going to become our big D word on this call today. Data sometimes can be scary. It can be intimidating. It can be that thing in your business that you don't want to deal with. If you're in the creative sector, I've heard many people that say, well, I'm the creative, someone else needs to deal with the data. But there are ways to actually take a very simple approach to understanding your business so that you can make informed decisions. And good decisions have to be informed decisions. You can't always go with your gut when you have a business to run, when you've borrowed money to make a business deliver on certain deliverables, when you have people to pay, and so on and so forth. So I wanted to just talk about, in the very, very simplest terms, if you wanted to create some understanding of what's going on in your business, what you should be looking at. Let me see if I can share the screen. Can someone confirm if you can see this in presentation mode?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so I like metrics. I think they serve to sort of guide, my everyday when running a business. But I think you can really just keep it simple to 3 main metrics, right? That would be revenue, which is simply an expression of how much money you made, either from rendering your service or selling your product. Now, in some businesses, which, are very, I guess, on the simpler side, you actually render a service to a customer and you get paid that day. In other businesses, for instance, lending being one of them, you actually render a service, but you can't record the revenue for that service until the loan is paid back, right? That gets to be a little bit more tricky and a little bit more complex. But at the bottom line, how much are you making? That's what counts as revenue. Next, I would keep an eye on costs. Physical costs, digital costs, staff costs, and then those hidden costs that just sort of add up and you don't know where they're coming from, things like transportation, power, airtime. You just somehow forget to account for them in your business, but they do tend to add up, and they're more critical, especially when you're a small business, right? And then your profits, which is the difference between your revenue and your costs. I've spoken to several SMEs who don't really know these numbers, but they are becoming increasingly important, and especially given what was discussed in the last session, which is lending. Right, so you need to understand what these numbers are and where they are in your business at any given point in time. I think a good CEO usually has their finger on the pulse of these numbers on an ongoing basis. And this becomes very important because it's important to understand the trends. Which direction are these numbers going in, week over week, month over month, year over year? Is there seasonality in your business? Do you get more customers at the end of the month when people get paid? Or do you get more customers over lunchtime because that's when people leave their offices to go look for something to eat and they, patronize your business incidentally, right? So it's important to have this data captured in some sort of independent manner, right? So that when it comes time to look for lending, as that is opening up and becoming a little bit easier, you have this data ready to present to whichever partner you're looking at for lending. It's also important to get a sense of whether your business is doing well or not by trying, and this is a little bit harder, so I will say trying to figure out what the benchmarks for your industry are. How much should you be spending on staff in your business? Are you spending more than others? And if so, is that allowing you succeed more than perhaps your peers in the industry? Right, so without making things too complex, and I've run businesses that have had a longer list of metrics than this. If you just keep it to revenue, costs, and profits, and understanding where these are on an ongoing basis, I think you're well on your way. Now, I think from my role, tools like digital marketing and technology are particularly important. because you then take your goals, which you derive from your metrics, and then use those to decide how you're going to use digital marketing or how you're going to use technology to manage your numbers to meet your goals. I do anticipate that as the questions start to come in, I'm going to have a lot more to contribute towards that later end of the conversation. So I'm going to be a little bit, keep it a little bit short and see you in the Q&A.
Yes, thank you very much, for, Adia, for seeing. We'll see you before the Q&A. We'll see you throughout the conversation. But I think one of the things we spent quite a lot of time preparing for this session, and we had a big debate about the tonality of the conversation. And what we're going to do, we're going to speak about the kind of things, benchmark, profit, cost, etc. And if there are people here who are thinking, all I care about now is how I'm going to open my business, pay my employees, find my next customer, and pay my next bill. We're here we're with you. But we're also here to elevate the perspective and conversation for the people who think, okay, I'm not dead. I still have a brain. There is a massive economy out there. Some people will win this battle out of this crisis, and I want to be part of them. So because of that, we are going to talk about things that may seem a bit distant to you right now, but we encourage you to please embrace them. These people know what they're talking about. To please embrace these concepts. Just try us, apply it. And we'll do some sort of, if you don't like it, come back and we'll give you something. But these things really work. And these are the things that when we think, and it applies in all honesty, in varying formats, but the information applies to whether you're an Iyinoluwa who desires to train her children in America, or guy or girl who's sitting down there thinking, in the last financial crisis, people like Alibaba came out of it. I want to be the African version of that. We want to find you, we want to hold your hands, and we want to take you on an experiential journey that will open you up into a world where you deserve to belong. You decide. Wherever you want to play, we're there with you. So without further ado, we have questions coming in, which is great. But I will have Iyi introduce himself and then really start the real conversation going. So if you could please just talk us through who you are, why technology, why is it important, how has it evolved over the last the last 20 years, and why is it important to us in Africa?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be on this call, and I've learned so much from what the other speakers have said. Quite frankly, I don't think I have very, very much to add because they've delved into all the details. But these are my senior sisters in the industry, so I'm not surprised. They've all taught us so much about how technology and indeed business can be run. I think particularly, I just want to share a few thoughts with some of the business owners on this call from a different perspective. And I think that's the perspective of looking at the future. There's no question that we're going through what is an unprecedented period of time. Anybody who doesn't recognize that by now probably doesn't understand how the world works. But a lot of things have changed, and the digital future we've been crowing about all these years has been accelerated. We're already seeing it even as business is coming back. We're doing business differently. I'm sitting in a place right now wearing a mask. This is likely to be how we live. There are places we want to go, we would have to wear a mask. We're unlikely to have crowded places anymore. People are going to avoid contact with each other for a while. And I think it's important that as we think about these changes, we think about our businesses in the context of these changes. And I think that's where technology can play a role. As we live in an accelerated digital future where people prefer, contact with bits to contacts with atoms, like they want to deal digitally, they want to buy your stuff over Instagram, as was earlier mentioned, and they want to do business online. We now have to think differently about how we serve our customers and what we need to do. And quite frankly, it is going to be impossible for us to do all these things without technology. And the reason for that is simply because, technology gives us the ability to serve people we can't see. and to serve people we can't necessarily touch, which is particularly useful at this time. But beyond that, it also gives us a lot of reach. And I think that's another very critical piece of the puzzle that we're all thinking about this time. How do we, in spite of the pandemic, grow our business? So I'm going to quickly, without much ado, I'll say a little bit about my background. My background is very simple. I've been in technology for the last 10 years. I've been working with some of Africa's fastest growing businesses and just trying to put in the building blocks of what a technology ecosystem could look like. I started with a business called Adara, which provides talent to businesses around the world from Nigeria. We have over 3,000 people working for businesses all over the world from Nigeria. And then I also co-founded Flutterwave, which is a global payments company that focuses on supporting global businesses doing business in Africa and African businesses wanting to do business with the rest of the world. Many of you may have used us to pay for Uber as an example of one of the businesses that we serve. And one thing I've learned, and now I work at Future Africa. And at Future Africa, we're an innovation fund that partners with innovators who are turning our continent's biggest challenges into business opportunities by leveraging technology. Now, one thing I want to just emphasize, before we move on to questions and answers, is just the idea that, as we think about what technology can do for us, there are three things I want all of us to keep in mind. The first thing is basically, you have to think about technology as a tool. You're going to hear a lot about technology over the coming days. I don't think anybody can avoid technology, but it's important to just keep in mind that it's not the be-all, end-all of your business. However, it can be a massive enabler. And what do I mean by that? I'll give you a practical example. Through the shutdown, my wife is in the film industry. And during the shutdown, she had some challenges. And her challenge was very simple, right? She couldn't work. So how was she going to be able to, make some money even though she couldn't work? And she's a filmmaker. And obviously there's no production sets during the shutdown. So what did she decide to do? Well, she has the same network from her production sets, which include makeup artists, which include people who can do your hair. And she thought to herself, well, these people also need money just like I do. Can I connect them to people who need makeup and all this other stuff done at home? Some people just want to look good like Auntie Yvonne and be on camera, and that's okay. So we decided to do a matchmaking service, and you wouldn't believe it. In just a few hours, a business had started, and now she has 2 people working for her. And you're going to hear a lot of stories like this during this season. There's so many opportunities out there to leverage technology to serve people in spite of the shutdown. So the first thing to keep in mind, technology is a tool. Well, first thing, she didn't think about using technology. She thought about providing a service to those who need their makeup and their, and their hair and their nails done at home. And basically, she provided that service by leveraging technology, not the other way around. So first thing, technology is a tool. The second thing is, think about all the many ways that understanding your customer better and being able to automate the way you serve them can serve your business as you grow. One of the really, really big opportunities coming out of this crisis is opportunities to collaborate with people we may have once considered competitors. There's no business in the world that doesn't have this challenge where they feel like they're competing with others. And one thing I tell people to think about very carefully as they go into this space is think about how you might be able to collaborate with other people even through this season. One of the interesting things, my wife can do the pictures, but obviously she can't do everything in the makeup set. So she had to engage other people to be able to work with her, to be able to deliver the service. The key mindset that drives amazing technology outcomes for any kind of business is collaboration. How are you going to collaborate with people in your industry in order to be able to put together not just a united front, but a very effective use of digital tools? I'll tell you a story. I'm working with a group of restaurateurs, obviously hit by the crisis. And they came together and said to themselves, look, we're all on this app where we're paying 30%. It's becoming a greater and greater part of our revenue. How about we come together and develop a foodie app or something like that, where we can basically have, our customers who are slightly different from the typical kind of food app customers be able to order food from us. And they came to us, and we've been supporting them in doing this. And it looks like it's working, right? And that's an example of the kind of collaboration that's going to become possible because of the crisis. So it's very important that you think carefully about, you know, working with people in your industry and coming up with a united plan of action about how you can leverage technology together. Because one of the things that I'm sure Auntie Adia and Auntie Nkemdilim will tell you very, very quickly is that technology only works when you have scale. So the mindset of, oh, I have to build my own for myself doesn't make sense, which is why I keep telling people, which is going to be my third and final point, find platforms to leverage. Many people think about technology and think they have to go pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to all sorts of people so they can leverage technology. But the reality of the matter is that you can get started today with very, very simple tools that already exist. So let's say you're a digital business, you know, something as simple as listing your products on WhatsApp, taking nice pictures of your products, putting them on WhatsApp, putting them on Instagram can change the trajectory of your business. Don't believe you have to go and buy all these expensive tools just to be able to leverage technology. You can start small and grow depending on the way your customer does it. So these are like the three major points that I like to repeat to small business owners. I'm sure a lot is going to come out in the questions and answers. But like I was saying earlier, it's extremely important. Number one, remember, technology is a tool. It is not the business. Number two, remember, you have to collaborate with other people you may have considered competitors so that you can grow together. And number three, you have to leverage platforms. You have to leverage existing platforms. Don't always think about building your own platforms. Look for somebody in your industry who can enable you by providing you access to the technology you need, and feel free renting from them. And then over time, as you grow, you become smarter about where you can make proper large-scale technology investments. Thank you very much. And I'm going to hand back over to Antifa. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Just picking up on scale and collaboration, it's really incredibly important at this time. If we were going to really dig our way out of the current global recession that we're in, and this is really over and above the COVID pandemic and how we're dealing with it. We really need to be thinking about how we work with other people. So and one of the things that Adara does, and one of our flagship training programs, is teaching women to make the most beautiful tie-dye fabrics. We've collaborated with designers and just rethink, while we were rethinking as a team what we do with our business at this time, what we decided to do is go digital. So before, if you look at our social, our Instagram page, everything is in there. We're going to split out the design element into a different platform. We're going to sell products online, which we've never done before. And we've also joined a garment making association in Nigeria. We've already had help about what kinds of machines work and and we're going to make very simple, nice, appealing, easy, I don't need to think about it pricing that we want to sell online to everyone everywhere in the world. The investment actually, and thanks to COVID, we would have carried on doing the training, etc. But what that does for the foundation is actually really help with sustaining the foundation, as well as, importantly, something that we're always passionate about, which is just putting a spotlight out there. So the collaboration and scale, we just can't talk enough about it. We're going to, so thank you to everyone. We're going, before we go into, we've got some questions. We've got a nice number of questions. Before we go into that, we're going to do the first poll, because as we said, as a panel, we want to connect with you, we want to understand really where you are as an audience. And so we're going to put the first poll up now and run that, and then we'll have a discussion around some of the questions that we're being asked already. We also have some other topics that we're going to talk about as well. So it seems that the trend is trending in one direction, and I'm very pleased to see that most people on this call are planning to get their new customers on a digital platform. So which thankfully reinforces what we're saying, and we're going to spend more time in discussing the where, what, and why around that. I have a question for Adia at this point. Sometimes we forget to factor expenses such as charges for calls, transportation, etc. into our business. How can we manage our resources well for better profitability and to avoid high charges?
Okay, so in some cases, it's just being a little bit more conscious of the fact that those are costs that can be incurred in your business that you might not be tracking. So creating an expense account, you know, there are apps for these types of things, one of which is called Expensify. I don't know that that's live in Nigeria, but it's an app I've used so that anytime someone in your business makes an expense on behalf of the business, you can take a picture of the receipts and then track it. It goes straight into your accounting. Another way to do this is with business accounts. Uber, for instance, used to have, and probably still has, I don't know if you know if they do, these business accounts where you have a pooled account.
They still have U4B. They still have.
So you have a pooled account for business, and then all employees utilize the same account. So this way you can keep track of funds either physically by just sort of manually tracking each expense, or by grouping the expenses under a single account so that they are controlled also that way and monitored.
Okay, thank you so much. We also have, in the last session, as a reminder, we heard that Ruby's digital bank, if you open an SME account with them, they will give you an account, all online. They need people who want to provide data, because there's very little human intervention at the beginning. Importantly, with that account comes provision or the option to have an accounting package. They also help with online payments for people who want to sell products online, and they also help provide a payroll service. Let's make no mistake, they're generous and kind, but the real reason that they want to do it is the more that they see your business more clearly, the more that they can support you, and the more that they can better finesse the product offerings that they give to other SMEs. So there is a lot of products out there. One of the things that we're building a resource library. We have some exciting information around some of the inputs on that regarding digital marketing later. We're building a resource library where people can just come onto our website and see this sort of information. By the way, our website is still a work in progress, but we will launch it in the next couple of weeks. So another question that's been asked, and this is for first speaker, Nkem. She mentioned customer buying journey to create the content. Can she recommend any tool or template for this, or any brand that shows this journey? Nkem.
Okay, so the customer buying journey basically starts from sort of the customer even being aware of you, right? So there's obviously content that you need to create for the customer to be aware, and channels that you would use to create that awareness. Then you would go into the prospecting phase, where you're actually sort of trying to get the customer to buy, and you're answering all the buying objections, right? After that, you would then, the customer would then probably be interested and say, okay, I'm ready to buy, and you convert. Once you're converting, you would then start talking about sort of, you know, maybe value-added services that you can sell to them. You would start talking about customer service that you're able to offer them, and things like that. When you then have converted them, you obviously want to retain them as your customers. So you would constantly engage them to say, hey, we're still here. Do you want anything else? What can we do for you? You know, are there any other things that we can help you with? Then you would go into the phase where you want to make them a brand ambassador, right? Where you engage them to say, can you refer your friends? You know, can you give us a testimonial? Can you say something positive about us? So it's not necessarily a template, right? But if you Google customer, customer journey mapping, you'll see all of these different phases that I've just mentioned. And I think that the key thing is for your particular business to identify what are these phases like, and what is the information that the customer needs, or the potential customer at the beginning needs at every single point of this journey, right? And then you begin to create content that number one, first of all, pulls them in, right? Then convinces them that they want to buy. So let's say you sell, I don't know, nail polish, right? Since I like nail polish, you would basically try and, you know, first of all, pull me in probably with like amazing nail art that I will never be able to recreate at home, but I would feel like, wow, this is amazing. I want to do this. So I would look at your pictures. I would follow your channel, right? So social media would be a great channel to do that. After that, I would then probably be like, oh, wow, these guys post really nice stuff. Let me actually check out their website. I would go to your website, and there you then need to give me reasons why I should buy from you and how I can become this amazing nail artist that can do this nail art, right? Maybe you would do that through having a video tutorial on there, right? So that would be content that would, you know, sort of convert me into a client. Then, or you could have a blog post with 5 steps how to create amazing nails, right? And then once I know those 5 steps, obviously I need the products to do that, right? So from that blog post or from that video, there would be a link that tells me, go here to buy, right? Then I would buy. Once I've bought, obviously you want me to buy more, right? So you would maybe now have me in your email marketing list, and you would send me emails to say, hey, have you seen our latest video? Have you seen our latest blog post? Have you, you know, engaged with us? You would probably try and get information about me, like my birthday, and probably say, hey, we have a 10% discount for you on your birthday. And then I would use that discount to purchase again, right? You would probably also have email marketing notifications to me that would say, hey, can you, you know, if you share this with a friend, you get, I don't know, 1,000 Naira off your next purchase, and your friend gets 1,000 Naira credit as well to purchase in our store. Now, these are all different messages that I've just mentioned, right? That are along the buyer's journey, right? And that sort of push me along and make me a loyal customer, right? And that make me come back to buy more, that make me also recommend, you know, the brand if I'm happy with it. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Nkem. We have lots of questions. One other one is, yes, you did. I think you did. They will like feedback from the person who asked the question. If you want more clarity, we're very happy to give it. I have a question from Kenya to Iyi. Will the new innovative startups coming up during this period find funding? Considering the startup funding ecosystem is likely to contract, what is your fund's approach towards this? And so you talked a little bit about Future Africa. This may be a good time to spell out a little bit more what it does, and while you answer the question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Yvonne. So in terms of what Future Africa basically does is precisely trying to fill that gap. We know that right now there's going to be a funding gap for innovators. And like we just discussed, we need innovators to get through whatever is going on right now. So this is not the time for funding to innovators to contract. However, we know what the markets look like, and we know it will likely contract. So Future Africa is one of many initiatives, one of many funders that exist to plug that gap. And I'll tell you a little bit about how we do that. But first of all, what we do is we identify 20 amazing companies every year that are turning our biggest challenges, and now they've multiplied with COVID, into global business opportunities. And then we nurture those companies and help grow them into, our goal is to grow them into $100 million companies within a 36-month period. And we do that through a combination of providing capital. We provide $50,000 of capital. We provide coaching, and then we provide community to these startups. So that's our approach. And one of the amazing things that we've innovated to basically do this well, we have a community of investors. And that's an interesting thing that's going on that we're seeing, is that, you know, a lot of retail investors are actually excited about the opportunity of investing in innovation at this time. Obviously, the institutionals are a bit more careful, but a lot of retail investors have cash in hand, not a lot of great investment options, and are excited about backing innovation. So we're organizing these investors and helping them see what the opportunities are, and then guiding them to make investments in these companies. And You know, we do that through the Future Africa Collective. If you go on future.africa, you can actually read those things. So these are great examples of some of the stuff that we're doing right now.
Thank you so much for that. And and do you, just a question, do you lend to companies that have no technology capabilities?
Unfortunately, we only focus on technology companies right now, just for now. But I'm sure we will partner with others. Technology and technology-enabled businesses, yes.
Okay. So just another thing to point out during this whole SME, this rather COVID crisis, we know that there's quite a bit of money. So the amount of money that the federal government of Nigeria has to deploy to households and SMEs at $125 million equivalent, $135 million equivalent, doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of any problem that we need to solve here. So we then, a number of us individuals, including people like me, decided, enough already. We're going to do what we can to gather resources from different parts that are willing to deploy into Nigeria and into Africa. But then what we found is finding the critical mass of SMEs that want to go on this journey is honestly challenging. Finding the critical mass of lenders that would lend to them is more exciting, because the digital SME lenders, we believe, could lead the charge on this. And then the other piece, which is part of why these webinars are important and why we use the Adara Foundation to expose you to some of the minds that we have in Nigeria around some of these topics, is that even the technical capabilities to build the businesses in the way that we're describing on this call, there's so many gaps in them. And so the collaboration and the partnership is really very important. But really just to really drive that home, I hope, a little bit more, I wanted to turn over to Adia and say to her, what does, in its simplest form, without losing the content, what does a technology-enabled business look like? What are the core components of it?
Sorry, I was on mute. Okay. So I would say that if you do any of the following 4 things using technology in your business, you could probably consider yourself a tech-enabled business. So if you acquire your customers, if you get any customers in any way over a digital channel, that would be 1. 2, if you engage your customer over a digital channel, if you monetize your customer, so basically if you complete your transactions over a digital channel, or if you carry out any sort of retention management or defend your customer base over a digital channel, I would say that if you're doing any of these 4 things over a digital channel, you could consider yourself tech-enabled. Right, so I think between myself, Ian, and Kem, we've talked about one of these 4 things in the context of a particular company. But in my view, you are tech-enabled if you acquire, monetize, engage, or retain your customers using a digital channel.
I'm going to throw this question out there because I think all of you will have something to say about this, and then we're going to do another poll in a couple of minutes. Technology and innovation is rising quickly. Truthfully, technology is going to substitute in capital letters and complement the workforce. For employees like me, how can I be ready and maximize this enormous change? So Adia, I'm going to keep you as the first person to answer this question.
Okay, that's actually a great question. I think it's an easy response to that would be to say just use the technology. But sometimes you have to be in a particular place to be exposed to the technology. I recently had to send a document to someone on Google Docs. Now, this is someone that is very prominent in industry, a Harvard grad, but he'd never used Google Docs before because he's not really in a tech native organization like that. He still uses email, he still uses Microsoft Word, and attaches documents to email. Look, even just saying that right now, last 2 years I've been working for a super Silicon Valley company. I haven't attached Microsoft Word to a document in years. So it was interesting having this conversation with my dear friend, you know, and just trying to tell them, okay, this is how you use Google Docs. It's a collaborative document, and this is what happens these days. You know, so I would say that when presented with an opportunity to use new technology, I would say lean into it. Don't run away from it. Don't resist it. You know, and any technology that you can seek out and sort of opt into, you know, if you hear about its uses, I think if you keep asking your network, what tools are you using that are making you more efficient? If they're suggested, many of them are free, and you can quickly get a free account and try it out. You can see what works for you.
Thank you so much, Adia. What do you have to say about very future forward employee who's joined us today?
So I think what's really, really important is that you look at what other people are doing, actually. I'm a big fan of copying in that respect. The West is typically ahead of us with these things. You can see what tools small businesses are using and how they're using them. There's amazing resources that have also been put out by a lot of great companies. It's like Paystack, for example, has this guide for food businesses. So if you do a food business, you should go on Paystack and Google their guide to a digital restaurant and look up that. You should also look at Flutterwave's guide as well for business owners, and they have Flutterwave stores as well. Try and leverage some of this wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom on the internet that you can access. And then it makes it easier for you to see what the possibilities are. The other thing I would suggest is, you know, when you adopt these tools, try and measure impacts. So, you know, make sure that what you're adopting makes sense, even to you, right? I see a lot of people just build online stores for the sake of online stores, or go on social media for the sake of social media. But make sure that you have a benchmark. Okay, this thing has to bring me 10 deals. This thing has to bring me 15 deals. Then you know what's useful and what's not useful. And then everything that Auntie Adia has already said. Thank you.
Okay, Nkemdilim, do you have anything to add to that? We'd love to hear your perspective on that topic.
Yeah, so I think
that's a question everyone should be asking themselves at this time.
Definitely. And I think when it comes to technology, the motto should always be learn like your life depends on it. Gobble up anything that you come across, and also, you know, use platforms like Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, and really look at what are those technology tools that are on there that that you can learn from. Subscribe to blogs that, you know, talk about new technology tools, especially productivity tools for the workspace. I think that there you would find really, really amazing, you know, solutions that you can sort of buy in, and, you know, just keep learning, keep an open mind. I think it's really a mindset thing, right? Once your mind is open, you will, you know, start, you know, sort of attracting all of these tools into your life, and you'll become sort of a super user and super guru in all of them. And I think that also one of the ways that I always find, you know, sort of understanding tools and technology, the best is teach it to someone else. When you teach it to someone else, you have to sort of explore, and you have to click every single button. And when you then figure out how it works, you can go teach it to someone else. That way you're paying it forward at the same time.
Thank you so much, Nkem. The other thing that I would say, there are a couple of things that I do personally to keep me on the ball in terms of technology. Tech Cabal is an online group where they give very insightful updates about just how people are using technology to build out their business.
And a proud portfolio company too.
Yes.
And also one of our portfolio companies.
Yes. And so there's Tech Cabal, and then there's edX, which is this amazing collaboration of Ivy League universities in the US to just put out some pretty informative and fascinating information, not just on technology, but also just on how the world is evolving. At this time. And just, you know, at this point, I just want to, I'm trying to get it up quickly enough, but it's using work again, it's not working, so I'll come back to it in a minute. But it took something like over 60 years for automobiles to have 50 million users worldwide. It's taken about 4 years to get 50 million users onto Facebook. And there are many, technology is evolving very, very fast. And the use of it is evolving very fast. And we all need to really stay quite close and familiar to how this is, how this can help us and save us. I'm going to ask a real question, real quick question, then we're going to go on to our next poll. Please, there are scammers on Instagram. Someone contacted me in Thailand. I requested for my products. Some colleagues said it's a scam. How do we deal with, so as we embrace technology, what are some tips and advice on how to deal? I'm going to go back to Iyi on this one. How do businesses protect themselves from people like this who try to take advantage of people who are trying to expand their businesses online?
That's a great question. And like I've always said, technology is a tool. So just as it can be used for life-changing and transformational things, it can also be used for bad. Well, first of all, what I would say is, try and use a payment platform. I'm not saying this because I was the CEO of one. You can use Paystack if you don't want to use Flutterwave, but use a payment platform because at the very least, it helps you to suss out the seriousness of a customer. So if a customer reaches you from Thailand, well, that's a good thing because that's what technology is supposed to help you do. Try and look and see whether, would the person be willing to pay in advance of you sending the product, and then all of that. And then once you know that that's the case and that they're not a fraudulent user or whatever, then you can send the product over. Because the truth of the matter is that's part of what technology should enable. Also, beyond that, just in general, around staying safe with scammers online, limit the amount of information you put online. Try and use official business names, official business accounts. Limit the amount of personal information you put online. It's very, very critical. Also, I just put a guide in the chat box. CCHub, which is an amazing resource, just put a guide out talking about working from home digital security guide. It's an amazing guide. I think everyone should read it. Take a look at it. One of the biggest reasons why people get hacked online is because they use pirated software. Try and buy original. If you really need the thing, try and get a subscription for it. Try and buy an original version of it. Don't use pirated software, and try to, as quickly as possible, switch from the free version of the software as soon as you've tested it. Those are some of the tips I would leave for you.
Okay, that's great. We're going to move on to our next poll just to get a better sense with the audience that we have today. What digital tools you use most for your business? Again, we're going to give a minute to give people time to participate and respond to the question. Okay, interesting and not surprising. So the results are that 50% of the participants on this program use Instagram for their business. Another 19%, the second highest is 19%, use WhatsApp. And then 13% use their websites. 6%, another 13% use emails. 6% use phones. And then it starts to dwindle to less than 5% for Facebook and LinkedIn. I wanted to just have Nkemdilim and Adia comment on their perspectives on this, and just in terms of what does this mean? Are these the most effective tools? Where would you encourage people to look at as well? What thoughts do you have? What can you share just to help people improve what's happening with them in their space right now?
Okay, so I think it sort of really reflects, what's going on out there. A lot of people are primarily using Instagram and don't necessarily even have a website, right? A lot of other people are also using WhatsApp, especially as WhatsApp continues to roll out features for business owners like a catalog and different, WhatsApp for business features that make it easier for business owners to engage. Now, in terms of, what are the other platforms to sort of look at, I think that it really depends on who you're trying to reach and what type of business you have, right? So what we found is that social media channels really vary by region. For example, in South Africa, Instagram isn't as popular as Facebook, and you would hardly find customers running an Instagram campaign, right? And a Facebook campaign would be super successful. The same thing if you were trying to target customers that live in a little bit more sort of outside of the big cities in Nigeria, right? Facebook actually works much, much better for user acquisition in more, I wouldn't really say rural areas, but just outside of big cities in Nigeria. And the reason is this: Facebook has completely optimized their mobile app for very low, low connection. So it can run on, a very wobbly edge connection, whereby Instagram won't load on that type of connection, right? So thinking about, what actually drives users to a particular platform is really, really key when you actually engage with your platform, which is why I talked about targeting and really understanding the context of your customers. I also think that, depending on what type of business you have, you should be exploring LinkedIn as one of the key platforms, especially if you have professionals as your target demographic. LinkedIn has a lot of Nigerian professionals on there who are looking to connect not just with people, but also with brands, and who are looking for value-added content. So if you're in professional services, or let's say you sell property that you want a particular sort of demographic to purchase, those would be platforms where you can create content, but you have to make sure that the content is also adequate for the platform. So the type of content that would work on Instagram will not work on a platform like LinkedIn. I also think that more people need to really sort of look at, what can my website do for me, right? And how can I use my website as a conversion tool and as a lead magnet, as opposed to just an information site, right? When your website becomes a marketing tool and a key channel in your marketing funnel, then you will start seeing results, and then you would actually probably have different demographics than you have right here, because one of the things that you have to remember that is key in marketing is the data. Who are these customers? Can I get their phone numbers, for example? Can I get their email addresses, right? If you can't, if you have, let's say, 10,000 followers on Instagram, that's great, but you have no clue who they are. You have no way to contact them apart from putting out a post, right, or a story. But if you actually had their email addresses, you could reach them much more directly. You could track what type of content they're actually engaging with and opening. And then you would be able to, sort of start segmenting them much better in order to actually personalize the messages that you send them and get more success in how you actually sell.
Great. Adia?
Yeah, so I guess on the flip side of what Nkem has said, I think that each business should be testing which digital platform serves which part of their business. So I think you almost have to go on a sort of individual journey, right? Because you may find more success with email if you are like a financial services business, with Instagram, which is very visual and heavy and quite aligned to people that have goods and services that need to be displayed. So one thing that I would recommend, it's pretty cheap to actually test this out. You don't have to commit too much in terms of funds to figure out what purpose each particular, each digital media can actually serve, can serve for your particular business. So in terms of acquisition, Instagram may not necessarily work. You may do better by doing that over email. But then when your user follows your Instagram account, you can keep them up with like status updates, just, brand refreshers, product announcements, and so on and so forth. You can then shift to a completely different medium to meet a completely different need. So I would encourage you to take the time to just do some experimenting across all of the different media to figure out what works for you for whatever purpose you want to serve. But above all, you should be trying to tie this back to whether it's effectively affecting your metrics. Because for instance, you could be talking to customers over WhatsApp versus talking to customers over Instagram. And you could find that the customers that you engage over WhatsApp are earning you 10 times more than the customers on all other media. So what should you then, do as a business owner? But if you're not tying this thing back to your metrics and the goals that you want to meet, it will be very difficult to make these decisions. So again, it's coming back to data and the metrics and goals that you have for your business and making sure that you are drawing back what the activities that you are carrying out to your goals.
That's great. Thank you so much. I love the different perspective as well. A very interesting perspective for the foundation, a question for the foundation, which I'll read out loud and respond to. Can the foundation develop business process outsourcing, especially for women empowerment and financial emancipation? I think that's a great question. So now that it's phrased in this way, it makes me think about something that we do already. So already today, we have an access to market platform. As I mentioned before, one of our flagship training programs is training women how to make the most incredibly beautiful Adira designs. And what we found, having done it for a short while, was that women made these designs, and we taught them a lot of things about fabric design, business ethic, money management, quality assurance, customer service. And then we sent them back. These are very low income women, and we send them right back into their environments. So guess what? They go there, and we had tooled them up for things that the people around them just simply don't really care for. People around them are really still thinking about how to survive one day to the next. So what we then said is we realized it had to be us that would provide an access to market platform for them, where we take their skills, we take their intellect and their hard work and use the platforms that we can generate as a foundation, which came from giving them a production space so that they can produce to those very fine qualities to which we taught them to produce, giving them, finding the designers, collaborating with designers to make with them some of the most beautiful imagery, which I'm hoping my team will respond to my on-the-fly comment and show some of our Tiffany Amber collaboration images at some point before this ends. And then also helping them to sell those fabrics. And what we did with that is we don't give the women salaries, we give them a portion of what the foundation gets from that. So that was something that we were doing, and I, funnily enough, didn't really think, oh yes, the only other extension we did in rethinking the business today, recently rather, was to say, let's start making very simple, beautiful garments that people can pick up without thinking about. And let's sell those abroad as well. So let's take our Adira designs and put them into shapes of dresses that anyone anywhere around the world would like and buy quite easily. And so that's, as I've mentioned before, a next step for us. But this question has admonished us admonished me right here to say, okay, why are you just doing it for the skills that you train for? Why not think about how we can open up a platform for business processing, for serious small businesses, for women mainly and youth, that helps them get, and we'll do it. We won't do it on our own, but we know people who provide these services brilliantly. And actually getting them to come into this is something that we'll take, Chris, we will report back to you on how we get on with this, but that's a brilliant suggestion and challenge for us. And before I go to Iyi with another question, I'm going to go back to Adia, because this is a question that I think she would answer very well. How do you leverage logistic chain partnership to improved customer service through on-time delivery services?
I think the answer is in the question, really, right? So what is the goal? What's the thing you're trying to improve? You're trying to improve your customer service. You're trying to improve how quickly your customers get their products. You're trying to minimize the number of questions that customers ask during the process of delivering. So I think then there are actually quite a few formal and informal logistics services available in the country now. So I think if you reach out to them, you just test them out. You try them out for a week or a month, and whoever actually addresses the metrics that you're trying to improve in your business is the person that you should stick to. So I think, yes, thinking about using a logistics service to improve your customer experience is good, but then you need to break down what that means. What is customer experience to you? What do you want your optimized experience to actually look like? You know, one of the most annoying things I experience is anytime I order something from someone on WhatsApp, I send them my address, I send them written directions, I send them a location pin. Yet, imagine how many times I have to get on the phone with a bike man to explain, you know, or give the same directions again, right? The whole point of creating 3 different ways to get to my house is to avoid that very conversation. Yet, I still keep having it. So you're touching on a very, very important topic. And honestly, I prefer to deal with the people that for whom delivery is a pleasure. You know, if I want to have someone else receive my deliveries, create room for me to give you, you know, that information. Create room for me to say you can leave it at the gate. Send me a text message. You know what I mean? I don't want to be interrupting my work meetings to speak to somebody that doesn't know how to read a map. You know what I mean? So I would suggest that you find a logistics service that actually addresses all of your needs, that you've taken the time to break down and articulate, and then go with that provider.
Great, great, great. We have a question from Jennifer that I'm going to attempt to describe. So it says, our brand is quite broad and covers a wide range, so we can definitely create an ebook. We're just starting we just started giving away freebies and asking people to email us. So basically, we give you something, you give your email. Is that a good marketing strategy? Nkem?
Okay, so there were actually a couple of questions before that. So I'll just give some context to this because I've been chatting with Jennifer to actually explain to her what to do. So Jennifer runs an online magazine, and they're currently looking to build their email list, and they're having problems sort of getting newsletter signups. So one of the things that I suggested was to, you know, use gated content. So gated content is basically content that is behind sort of an email or contact information sign-up form, right? And with this, you basically, so let's say you create an ebook, maybe of your top articles that you have on your online magazine, and you say, okay, this is 2019's highlights of the year in one place. And anyone who is interested in these highlights of the year would then be able to go on your website, on that landing page that you've created for it, right? They would put in the email address, they would put in their contact information. The beauty with gated content is that it actually allows you to ask much more questions than people would normally part with. So I'll give an example. We recently ran a digital marketing, digital transformation masterclass, and it was focused on C-level executives, board members, and business owners. And we wanted to know what type of business owners and what type of businesses are actually being represented here. So we had questions around sector, we had questions around annual turnover, right? And just ranges that people could pick from. We had questions around the size of the business. We had questions around whether the person is a board member or a C-level executive or a business owner. And we had 120 signups for that masterclass, which means that we have 120 records with information about industry, about company size, about turnover, which allows us to segment that data for our email database much, much deeper than if we just say sign up for our newsletter. Because if we just say sign up for our newsletter, we have no idea who you are. We don't know what we should be selling to you, which of our products are a good fit for you, and how to actually engage with you. This way, we're able to actually engage on a much deeper level, and we can personalize the messages that go out to each of the segments. Because the truth is that a business that makes less than 25 million Naira a year is very different from a business that has a turnover of 1 billion Naira a year, right? the needs of that business in terms of technology, in terms of digital marketing are completely different. Even the budgets that they have are completely different. So the more we actually know our customers through, sort of using gated content to segment, the better it is for us to target our customers in more detail. So definitely giving something away, but make sure you design a landing page. So don't just say, email us if you want our ebook, because that still doesn't give you any information about the person. Then you have my email address and maybe my name. If my email address is, I don't know, FeistyVixen199, then you would still not know who I am, right? So it's really important to actually think about, what do I want to achieve with this, and what type of data do I want to collect from my customer in order to engage with them deeper and in order to sell my service, right? And also in order to ensure that I have the right type of target demographic. Let's say you have a luxury magazine, right? If only students are reading your luxury magazine and there are no sort of high net worth individuals reading it, then you have the wrong target audience. Nobody will pay for advertising on your site. No brands will, sort of pay for media mentions or advertorials on your site because you simply have the wrong target demographic. So it's really important that you understand, who am I targeting? What do I want with, to do with that target demographic, and then create content that can attract them in order for you to build that mailing list. So Jennifer, I hope this answers your question in more detail.
I'd like to actually add to that, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
Jennifer, when you're thinking about your newsletter, when you're thinking about customer communications, from the customer's perspective, you should imagine that the first question that pops into the customer's head is why. Anytime somebody asks me to sign up for anything, the first question I ask is why. And if it is not clear, right, whether directly or indirectly, why the customer should be doing what you expect them to do, don't expect an answer. So in some way, shape, or form, you have to, just like Nkem suggested, demonstrate your value by maybe giving an excerpt of some content that they now have to sign up if they are eager to finish reading it. So the content has to be good, it has to be juicy, it has to be something that the person that you're dealing with wants to read. And the other thing to consider, though, is that you don't want to create too many steps in the process, because that creates friction and irritation. And with every incremental step, or every additional piece of information you ask the customer for, and you are not sating their appetite with you giving them something else, it's got to be a give and take, the more likely you're going to lose that customer. So if the customer has read a paragraph and then you say, okay, click here to read more, and then you give them a sign-up page that asks them for 20 different things, they may never get to the bottom of that page and you're not going to get to that customer. Right. So again, on one hand, after you've sort of adopted your perspective and you've got your goals, put yourself in the shoes of your customer before designing, changing whatever you're doing.
That's fantastic. So on the side, I have a lot of things to pack into the next 5 minutes that we have left with you all. Ian, I'm going to come back to you in a minute. We're going to do the next poll right after this. After I make this statement, I've been bursting to tell you that about and I think Nkem has to tell us as quickly as she can about some of the resources that she's making available regarding digital marketing. So this conversation is just the start of a journey. And for those people who have actually stayed on through you, we have 2 giveaways for that Nkem will speak about in a minute from her organization. And we have an extra one as well that I'll talk about when she's done. Nkem?
Okay. So we have a lot of resources as part of our own COVID kindness sort of campaign. We've put together all our resources that we use for in-house training, that we use to sort of train our customers, case studies that we've put together, videos that we have from different masterclasses that we've taught. And we're giving those away to everybody that is here in the webinar. I believe that there will be an email that will be sent to everyone with the details of how to access that. We will also be giving away 2 free digital marketing audits. So I don't know what people have to do for it. So maybe.
So what we will do, so thank you very much for that, Nkem. And what we would do is, of the attendees that are online at the moment, we will do a lottery and pick 2 of them to give, so that they will make sure it's people who do want to use it, so that it ends up being a very useful gift. But just to the topic of give and take that Adia was talking about earlier, improving that customer experience is something that we all need to focus on. So thank you very much for that. And we also have, we're donating from the foundation a seat for a CEO at the next training that Futuresoft does for digital marketing at the C-suite level. Iyi, I'm going to ask you a question really quickly before we do our last and final survey. Very important question. What are the important things that technology will do for our economy over the next 5 years? And what sectors do you think are more important? While we're waiting, can we have the next poll up, please? What percentage of your business will come from digital platforms this year? So if we start the poll now, and as usual, leave it on for a minute. Okay, this seems like there's little debate here. So at this stage, 68% say more than 50% of their business will come from digital platforms this year. So I have this nice feeling of, oh, fantastic. So we have more, so the polls show that more than 50% of the participants on this call, or rather more than 70% of the participants on this call expects that greater than 50% of their business will be driven from digital platforms. And thankfully, only 30% expect that less than 50% of their businesses will be driven from digital platforms this year. So it's a journey. We have a lot of tools available. It's a good time to wrap up. I'm going to ask Adia and Nkem for closing remarks, and then I will round off in the last minute as well.
Okay, so I think, embrace digital. The future is digital. It's not going anywhere. And I think it's really, really important to have the knowledge, especially as a business owner, as well as an employee. But I think as a business owner, it's really, really important because in as much as you can surround yourself with a digital savvy workforce and you can surround yourself with digital savvy consultants, if you don't really understand what it is that you're actually doing, chances are that it will fail simply because you understand your business better than anyone else. So educate yourself, follow different blogs, read, do webinars, do podcasts. There's so much information out there for you to consume. So don't be afraid of it, embrace it, and good luck with everything.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Nkem. Adia, let's hear some final sage words from you.
Okay, I'll try to keep it simple. Data shouldn't be scary. It's okay to ask for help. But I would say that whatever actions you're taking should be visible in the key numbers that you're watching in your business. If you can't measure the impact of something that you're doing, then you should be questioning whether you should be doing it at all. So you should find a way to organize and quantify whatever action you're taking in your business to help you make better decisions, to help you make sure that you have a business that is growing on track. I also hope that what we've said today has been useful to you, and I wish you all the best in your respective businesses.
So to the panelists, I thank you very, very much for your not surprising but brilliant contribution to this discussion. The discussion is part of a journey, it's part of a marathon. At Adara Foundation, we are here to provide the long-term support that SMEs need to become more robust in the near term, to learn how to thrive and survive and grow and become important contributors to the economy as we move forward. Our next session is next week, accessing other pools of COVID relief. We're looking at local and international sources. That's a bit more specific. And then we also, the final series, we're going to throw a spotlight on some of the key sectors that we think appear to be struggling, but in our view do have a bright future. It's manufacturing, it's retail, it's fashion in that series. And we'll explain to you why we think those sectors are very important, alongside other sectors that like technology, healthcare, education. So I thank the participants for joining. I thank you for what I thought was a very lively session from the panelists in terms of just, I hope you got what you wanted. They wanted to come and engage, and I hope you found it engaging. And I hope that the audience got what you want out of this. As I said at the beginning, and I'm going to repeat it at the end, as an organization, we're here for you. If you have questions that you think about after or we haven't answered in this session, please do reach out to us and we'll do our best to answer them through the experts to which we have a lot of access. Thank you and see you soon.